to tonight's program. We're so looking forward to hearing our very own Monique Muhlenkamp, her presentation on books. Monique is a longtime member of the Women's Club, as I'm sure you all know, and former Women's Club president. She's currently publicity director at New World Library, where she has worked for 20 years. But first, a few updates on the club. The Petaluma Museum exhibit on the club history is being postponed a year, as is the Garden Club history exhibit. Linda Buffo is spearheading our exhibit, which will include a video of historic figures speaking of our club's history. Meanwhile, efforts to procure a historical designation for the clubhouse are being led by Esther Schau and her committee, which is being joined, I understand, by a brand new member, Alice Van Omeren, who has experience with the Salinas Women's Club's historical designation. Thank you, Alice. Speaking of Esther, you will soon be receiving a notice in the mail about our non-event crab fundraiser. The club would be very grateful if you would consider donating at this time. We believe we have enough funds to maintain the clubhouse until dues become due in June without dipping into our CD, but all support is welcome. Lynn, at this point, I was going to go ahead and mention the doors were going to be prepared, but why don't you tell us what's going on?
Thank you, Sue. The doors are actually finished. I got that news late this afternoon, and when I went back over to close up and take a peek in the late afternoon, I was very impressed. So tomorrow morning, in the morning light, I want to go back over and have another look. He did a wonderful job. They look patinaed, but they are usable and they are beautiful. They look original, and with the flaws and blemishes done correctly, and not in some way where somebody would go up and go, oh, somebody patched in some new stuff. No, there's a reason why Credence is well known in Petaluma. So I'm impressed. I'm excited.
That's wonderful news, Lynn. Thank you so much for getting that done for us. I can't wait to see the doors.
Me either, in the daylight anyway.
In early April, we're planning another blood drive with Vitalent. Our past 2 drives have been well received, and we appreciate all your support. Next month, we are excited to honor our past presidents on Tuesday night, February 9th. Now, normally that Tuesday of the month would be the lunch, the daytime event that honors the past presidents, but things are different. And so we're going to plan for an evening event. And I'm really excited because several past presidents have offered to speak on the highlights of their terms in office, including our very first evening president, Colleen Mahoney. She served 2 terms beginning in 1995. And before that, it was only a lunch club. So watch for your e-blast. Later on in February, on our regular event night, February 18th, our longtime member and former president, Susan Price, will offer a presentation on getting organized, something I personally am really looking forward to hearing. Lastly, and most important, we're seeking your help in filling some important board positions. We're losing our wonderful and competent treasurers, Linda Carr, Accounts Receivable Treasurer, and Anne Morante, Accounts Payable Treasurer. So please consider serving, not just in one of these 2 positions, but any other position that interests you. I can assure you that working with the ladies of the board is extremely rewarding and fulfilling. And with that, I will turn the mic over to Monique.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much. Thank you all for coming out this evening to hear me prattle on about what's going on with books and publishing and reading and all of those good things. Special shout out to Lynn Ann, who walked me through my presentation. Normally when it comes to Zoom meetings, I'm in the well, I've got the keys to the car and I'm in the driver's seat, but it's kind of nice to just say, show up, I'll take care of the rest. So thank you, Lynn Ann and Susan Price for listening to me while I thought, okay, well, let me test these ideas on you. So thank you. And thank you all for showing up tonight. So, and it's also really nice to see you. I know I've been a little out of pocket, but it's really good to see you all tonight here. So anyway, and then what happened? So let's talk a little bit about an industry overview, taking us back to March of last year and how publishers, authors, and booksellers adapted to the pandemic. Publishing, it's kind of looked at as a stodgy industry, but push came to shove, they were able to, and the word we've heard so much, pivot. They pivoted, as did authors and booksellers. And what that looks like is, and if you have questions, save them till the end, and I'll get to as many as we can. Also, I have a document here with lists of the books that I'll be talking about. So if you want to write them down, great. If not, we'll get you a list. But publishers were very, very thankful for ebooks. I don't think I'm stretching things too much by saying that Amazon.com is every publisher's largest customer. And as you probably know, at the beginning of the pandemic, books were not considered essential materials. So that bungled up the sales chain. But ebooks, of course, were not subjected to that. So that was a Band-Aid, if you will. Authors realizing that they were not going to be able to tour, quickly got very Zoom conversant and bumped things up in how they provide webinars to people. And the booksellers, the independent booksellers, who I think struggle the most given all of the competition, I think they really rose to the occasion with making recommendations to their constituents, as well as providing curbside pickup and just making sure that their audience had plenty to read, because guess what, you're going to be home for a while. So that is, in a nutshell, how parts of the industry adapted quickly. Libraries, I want to give a big shout out for the libraries. Librarians are there, of course. No, you cannot go into you cannot go into the library physically, but don't rule them out. If you have a card, you can go online and you can request books and you can go and pick them up curbside. I know here in the city of Sonoma, they take returns only on Friday and Saturday, and that gives them time to do what they need to do to sterilize the books and then get them back out to readers who have requested them. Something else that you guys may or may not be aware of is that you can read the New York Times for free via your local library. If you have a library card, and if you don't, they'll be happy to get you set up with one. You can go into the services toolbar and you can get the Wall Street Journal, many magazines, Consumer Reports. You can get those for free. But the New York Times, I don't know, my tax dollars at work, that's great. I don't have, I'm paying for it, but that's something just I want to point out. Ditto watching classic movies. They have an application called Canopy. And also for those who are still working and may need to bone up on classes and such, LinkedIn Learning is also something that the library offers. That's a subscription service that I had subscribed to at one time to the tune of $300 when I could have gotten it for free through the library. So they have both work and lifestyle related topics. So if you're interested in photography and want a jumping off point, go to your library, look at LinkedIn Learning, and sign up for some classes, and you can do them at home in your own time. Something else that I wanted to point out is that what used to be called Apple Books has been rebranded as iBooks. Excuse me, other way around. iBooks has been revamped as Apple Books, and I like the print book. The print book is my friend. It doesn't require any technology, and I like it. However, given what I do, I thought, well, I should give this a test run. And they have made it a much more, in my opinion, they have made it a much more pleasant user experience for purchasing audio and ebooks. So you might want to give it a try. I know, never say never. One of the nevers I said is, I will never read a book on my phone. I'm here to say, don't say never. It actually, I have a couple of books, and here and there when I want to travel a little bit light, I'll read a couple of pages on my phone. It's not so bad. So you all are going to be privy to what goes on inside my head with regards to books. I have a very wide range of interests, and so let's just go. I will, of course, share books that I want you to keep your eyes and ears open for coming down the pipeline. But, people are always asking me, Monique, what books have you read as of late? I have to be honest. I read a lot of my own home cooking. And by that, I mean the books that New World Library is publishing. And one of them that I think has a wide, I think that would be appealing to many of our members is a book called 3 Simple Lines. Is this going to be is this backwards to you?
No, it's perfect.
Okay. All right. I'm left-handed, and every once in a while, these mirror things kind of throw me off, but this is 3 Simple Lines, a writer's pilgrimage into the heart and homeland of haiku by Natalie Goldberg. She is a beloved author on writing, and she's most known for her book Writing Down the Bones. But what she's done here is she has left her home in Santa Fe, New Mexico, to go to Japan to study the haiku masters. And it is part travel log, part memoir, and history on the writing of haiku. And when I think of haiku, I think of third grade. Okay, 3 lines, 7 lines, so many not beats per measure, but we have, you think about the spare writing of haiku. And one of the things that she does is she highlights the history of the form and shows how we can benefit from just learning more about haiku and how and then of course she does go into writing it yourself. But one of the well, actually, sorry, excuse me, I got piles of books here and other stuff. This is a book about haiku as practice as a way in the world, she writes. Encouraging waking up to the most ordinary moments of human life. An insect on your chair, the hands of a clock, the splash of a frog. Haiku is the poetry of poetry before you form ideas and hopes and dreams. A haiku is 3 simple lines, but it is also, as Natalie Goldberg's teacher, Allen Ginsberg, shared, 3 lines that make the mind leap. And I love her writing style. I love, as I shared, that this is memoir, it's travel log, it's an American in Japan, which always has some entertainment value. And then of course there are some beautiful haikus, and one that just makes me smile is this one by Isa. Dear, dear, what a fat, happy face it has, this peony. It just makes me smile. So, and as I go a little bit further down the line here, you'll see that I've embraced poetry, but I'll put a lid on that box. I'll be coming back to that one. And as I said, I'm hopping around a little bit, so hold on. This book, Darling Rose Gold, is a novel by Stephanie Roble, and I think it got short shrift. This was going to go on sale on March 17th of last year. And I don't know about you all, but that's when I was packing up my office to come home for the next X amount of months. But this was one that I really enjoyed. It is it's the story about a young girl who believed that she was seriously ill. Her mother had convinced everyone that she was ill. The neighbors did everything that they could to help with fundraising and offering shoulders to cry on. And no one could ever figure out what was wrong with this young girl. And it turns out that it was, well, I don't want to give away the whole story. Give me just a second here to recap. It's a mystery thriller with a kind of a revenge plot going on, but the mother was the perpetrator who was purposely making her daughter ill. But the way that this comes around, you see this young woman who, when she realizes that she's been done wrong her entire life, she educates herself, and well, it doesn't end well for the mother, but it's a really good, compelling read. And the mother suffered from Munchausen by proxy. So there was a lot of research that went into this book, which I think really added to the believability of the storyline. So this one was Darling Rose Gold.
Stephen Roble.
Another author who is a favorite of mine is Hilary Mantel, and I just finished up with the Mirror and the Light. She has two books prior to this. They all do stand alone. The first book that you may have heard of is Wolf Hall. The second one was Bring Up the Bodies, and the third one is The Mirror and the Light. And it is historical fiction told from the perspective of Thomas Cromwell during King Henry VIII's reign.
Oh.
I love these books. I'm interested in that. That's one facet of history that I'm particularly interested in. I will tell you though, my experience was you have to really concentrate to follow who is talking. There are a lot of characters. Thankfully, the book has a little family tree of who's who, and that's helpful to refer back to. But I love the strong writing style. I love hearing the perspective from the historic fiction perspective of Thomas Cromwell, who came from very, very humble means and managed to, make his way up into Henry VIII's court, as dysfunctional as it was. So,
Well, I like the idea of historical fiction that you.
I do too. And that's something that I have a few more books that touch upon that. What I like about that, I love a good, engaging story. And I like one that touches on history, and I tend to read a lot of nonfiction. And if I'm particularly interested in a part of history, I myself will go out and read some historic fiction, and then I'll go to my library and get something in the nonfiction department that fills in the rest of the pieces.
Nice.
Yeah.
Would you repeat the title on that one, please, Monique?
Yes, the title on this one is The Mirror and the Light.
Thank you.
And the two books, although the three stand alone, I did read them in order. The first one was Wolf Hall. The second one was Bring Up the Bodies. And then the Mirror and the Light. And it's the beginning of Thomas Cromwell's rise to power in King Henry's court. Bring Up the Bodies focuses on Anne Boleyn and Henry VIII's relationship, and then Mirror and the Light is toward the end of Thomas Cromwell's tenure.
And just a minute, Monique, I will at the end of this presentation, for those of you that are savvy enough, I'll post the Word document she sent me. Otherwise, I'm going to send a constant contact email recap with the recording and the books that she's mentioning. But I love the idea of writing it. So when you're writing down the book, then you're also remembering that you actually want that book.
Yes.
Thanks, Lynn. That'll be terrific.
Yeah. I won't spend too much time on this, but just because it's one of the books we're publishing, and I needed to give myself a history lesson. One of the books we're publishing is called Being Better, Stoicism for a World Worth Living In. I'm like, oh, the Stoics, man, I was not available during that history class. I don't know where I was, but well, I was in class, but I wasn't focusing. But it's interesting. There's a reason we call them, the classics. And the premise of this book is it's to make philosophy, to put a practical, to make it more practical for today's living, even though it's obviously, ancient times. But here's the definition of Stoicism. It's a practical philosophy that provides an antidote for troubled times, while it also keeps our ego and excesses in check when things are going well. Stoicism helps us to understand ourselves and other people better, and to navigate a path through life's challenges and successes. And this is one that it's a deeper dive. It's a pretty heavy duty philosophy book, but what I like about this is the authors are distilling how these tenets are applicable to issues that we're facing today. The idea, climate change, justice, politics, things that are in the forefront of everyone's mind today. The Stoics have a lot of editorial on this. Mm-hmm. This one comes out in April. And when I have to read a book for work, not only do I read the book for work, but I also see, okay, has anyone else commented on this? Is there another title that I need to be aware of? And I liked this one a lot. The Daily Stoic, 366, not 365, 366 meditations on wisdom, perseverance, and the art of living. What I like about this, and being transparent here, I've had a hard time tracking stories. I've had, just by nature of the pandemic and everything else that's going on, if I'm going to sit down and read a book, I really have to focus, because there's a part of me that wants to see what's going on Facebook, what's going on in the news, what have I missed on But what I like about the Daily Stoic is that it's just a short little practice for the day. And today, the Stoics were talking about having a morning ritual and the importance of that. I think that we're a pretty well-oiled group here, and I think most of us have a morning ritual. And so this was just a nice reminder that, I have my morning ritual, but I can always add to it. And what would I add to it today? Meditate on your actions. Okay. What did I do that was unfriendly, unsocial, or uncaring? I didn't do any of that today. I showed up to the party to participate here tonight, so I'm being a good student, according to the Stoics. Okay. Let's discuss Monique's TBR pile. That's to be read pile. If there's an earthquake, my friends, someone's going to have to come over here and you're going to have to find me under the pile of books that are stacked on my nightstand. So I divided them up. Okay, here's pile one. Pre-pandemic, I had decided that I was going to bump up my cooking skills. I enjoy cooking. I have my tried and true meals, and I thought, I'm gonna just experiment a little bit more in the kitchen. Then, of course, the pandemic landed, and that was that. And I tend to go in themes when I read books. A couple of years ago, I was reading books that had a Western theme to them. Then I went through my Paris theme, where I wanted to read nonfiction, history books on Paris, fictional accounts of Paris, especially Paris during World War II. But I got into cooking memoirs. And what I love about cooking memoirs, I love the stories, but you also get some really good recipes from them. And the one that I'm reading right now is Save Me the Plums, my gourmet, yes, I see some hand clapping there, Yanni. My gourmet memoir by Ruth Reichel, who was the New York Times food editor for many, many years. And then she got poached to take over Gourmet magazine, which was at the time super stodgy and losing their audience. And she didn't want to do it, but she took over. And I'm not too far into it. She's just accepted the job, but she has no idea what she's doing with regards to running a magazine. And she's got a great writing style. It's very lively, very engaging. I would call her fun on a stick. And she shares some of her recipes in here. But I think I was had when I opened up the 3 or 4 pages of endorsements here, but I loved she opens up with a poem. I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me, they were delicious, so sweet and so cold. By William Carlos Williams. This is just to say. Well, that had to go in the basket, so. Save me the plums. Other ones that I have enjoyed, My Berlin Kitchen, a love story with recipes. A woman who suffers a breakup, a relationship breakup, and decides to go back home to Berlin. And this is the story of how she did that. And like she says, it's a love story with recipes. This is one I'd recommend too, My Berlin Kitchen.
Can you show us like a page or two of the book? Is it like a recipe or is it editorial?
No, it's memoir. It's full text. You're going to get, a recipe or two in there, but it's mostly the story. Mm-hmm.
Kind of like Chocolat, right?
It's been a while since I've read that one, but I want to say yes. Oh yeah, but she goes back to Germany, so it's going to have a little bit of a German flair to it. And I tend to go a little bit toward the nerdy side. So the next book, The Food Explorer, what I love about this is it combines, science and history and food. And it is it's the true adventure of David Fairchild, a late 19th century food explorer who traveled the globe and introduced diverse crops like avocados, mangoes, seedless grapes, and thousands more to the American plate. If you were to look back to your grandparents, your great grandparents, food was simply something that kept you going. There wasn't a lot of of flair to it. You know, just hot, brown, and on the table. But what happens here is with David Fairchild traveling around the world, he encounters the food that different cultures eat. I didn't realize that kale came from Croatia or mangoes from India. I pretty much figured out that hops and Bavaria, yeah, I like my beer, and that made a lot of sense to me. Peaches from China, avocados, you know, came from Chile. So, like I said, what I like about this is it's got the combination of travel and food with science mixed into it. That's what I liked about that one. One of the trends in publishing that we're seeing a lot of is embracing nature. You know, given the pandemic, people have been spending more time outside, and I've heard from many people that they are embracing nature in a way that they have not in a very long time. And this appeals to the nerdier side of me, and authors and publishers are happy to help me in this area. Since since everyone's on mute here, I don't know if any of you have seen the movie My Octopus Teacher on Netflix.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I see. Okay, I see a few people clapping hands.
Yeah.
Documentary on a man in midlife who goes back to his home in South Africa and ends up connecting with an octopus. And it was a really, really lovely documentary. My nerdy self has always been kind of fascinated by encephalopods. Enceph, the root word being head, and pod being foot, so head foot animals. And what I have not started reading this, but this went into the basket when I went to Copperfields a couple of weeks ago. And I think it makes a good tie-in for the My Octopus Teacher movie is Monarchs of the Sea, the extraordinary 500 million year history of, say it with me, cephalopods. So, you know, like I said, I've got a wide range of interests, and I do slant towards the nonfiction, science, and business, but this is one I'm pretty excited to delve into. Another one is the anthropology of turquoise. Reflections on Desert, Sea, Stone, and Sky by Ellen Malloy. This was a Pulitzer Prize finalist, and she spent a lot, she is deceased, but she spent a lot of time in nature and does a deeper dive into not only the stone, but the color turquoise and how it has influenced us in all of these different areas. And these are her reflections, particularly well written, I think. So that's one, the anthropology of turquoise. And this one, I don't know, kind of just a little bit of a sleeper book, but one that I found the writing to be particularly beautiful, is How to Disappear, Notes on Invisibility in a Time of Transparency. So the author points out that in this day and age, what about me? It's all about me. Hello, it's me. Here's my bullhorn. Me, 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 me. And her response to that is to go deep within and to shun that particular type of lifestyle. And she goes into the wonderful range of ways of disappearing. You know, first of all, staying away from the virtual reality goggles that trick us into believing many things. But she finds a great deal of solace in the natural world around her, especially as she ages. So this one has been very near and dear to my heart. You know, I've mentioned poetry a couple of times. Full disclosure here, I've not been a big poetry fan. However, in the past couple of months, I've found that that has changed. And I think the reason that has changed for me is I'm full up at the end of the day. And what I found with a poem is it's a short standalone piece, but it gives me a lot to think about. Whereas I might have a little difficulty tracking a story at the end of the day, I can take a poem and kind of just contemplate on that. It's a nice way for me to wind down my day. And so I mentioned the Natalie Goldberg haiku book. Let's see, who else do I have here? Let's see. Oh, this one, this is just a beautiful package. One of the things that's just as important to me as book content is the book packaging. I can't help myself as someone who's in publishing. I love a good package, and The Lost Spells is a really beautiful package. And it is a book of poems. It's a book of spells. It's a book of thoughts. And it's, particularly, it's beautifully illustrated. The illustrator is Jackie Morris. And, again, I go back to nature. I'm really feeling a need to connect with nature. And this was one of the selections. I'll show you the page. Red Fox. I am Red Fox. How do you see me? A bloom of rust at your vision's edge, the shadow that slips through a hole in the hedge. My two green eyes in your headlights rush, a scatter of feathers, the tip of a brush. And it goes on for a few more pages, but what I particularly love about this is the beautiful prose and the beautiful illustrations that go with it. I kind of think about this as a storybook for adults. I don't have anyone here to read it to me, so that's all on me. But give me a short little passage and some beautiful pictures. I'm a happy camper. So I would highly recommend The Lost Spells.
Very nice. By who?
The author is Robert McFarlane, and it's illustrated by Jackie Morris. And like I said, it's a beautiful package. I'll take us a little bit into the weeds. You've got some debossing and some metallic on the dust jacket. Look at these end pages. Look at that. Beautiful butterflies. It's got one of the bookmarks, which I find particularly helpful having that built in. Not like I don't have 512 bookmarks lying around my house, but anyway, and owls. They had me at owls. Yeah. And a classic, Mary Oliver. Mary Oliver's Devotions. This is now out in paperback. She's just a classic. Can't say enough good things about the beauty of her work. And I do want to share that the National Youth Poet Laureate.
Hold on, we might not know who she is and what.
I've got my little description right here.
Okay.
Amanda Gorman, she hit the top of the bestseller lists after her powerful recitation of her poem, "The Hill We Climb," at the inauguration yesterday. This young woman, her debut collection of poems, which is also called "The Hill We Climb," is due out September 21st from Viking. So that's one you may want to get your pre-orders in on. I know it's a little ways off, but I thought her recitation was absolutely stunning. So I just want to give a shout out for her beautiful upcoming work. Let's see.
Amanda Gorman, right?
And before you go on, I'm one of those people who is not familiar with the book Devotions. Will you thumbnail summary on that?
Oh, Mary Oliver and Devotions. Okay, the selected poems of Mary Oliver. She is, she's known for her brilliantly crafted verse and expounding on her love of the physical world and the powerful bond among all living things. And, you know, as I shared earlier, I tend to go through themes. So I've got my cooking memoir themes. As I said, I'm embracing poetry. I would say that Mary Oliver brings together my renewed interest in poetry and nature. Let's see.
Nice.
I know one of what's the one poem or the line that I see a lot on my social media feeds. What will you do with this one and only precious life? I'm sorry, I botched it, but that is something that she is. That's one that you see on the internet a lot. Here's one that I like. The instant. Today, one small snake lay looped and solitary in the high grass. It swirled to look, didn't like what it saw, and was gone in 2 pulses. Forward and with no sound at all, only 2 taps in disarray from the other shy one, my heart. Yeah.
Nice.
So Mary Oliver, juicy nature poetry.
Monique, you're inspiring all of us to actually think poetry can belong in our lives.
Yeah. You know, I had to study poetry in school and I just, I don't get it. I don't want to do it. But these days, yeah, it really speaks to me. And there are so many wonderful poets. And yes, it's a beloved art form and one that I'm delighted to be fully embracing. Let's not discuss that bad grade that I got in a poetry class in college. I did a very bad job of, and maybe this is what turned me off to poetry. Uh-oh, let's go out to the weeds for just a minute. I had to do I had to chronicle Adrienne Rich and her poetry, and I did a very bad job according to that instructor. And I think that kind of turned me off. But anyway, that's 30 years in my rear view mirror now. I am back with the poetry. Okay, so let's talk about what's coming up. So, you know, one that I keep, now, of course, these are ones that I have not read because they're not out and I'm not a book blogger. Who, you know, one of those folks that gets early copies from the other publishers. I'm too busy doing my own thing with my own authors and books. But Kristen Hanna, her upcoming book is coming out in, I want to say it's February. It's called The 4 Winds. Some of you may recognize her name. She is the best-selling author of The Nightingale, which was a story about a French family in the middle of World War II, and the matriarch keeps her family together in very, you know, keeps her family together in a very, very difficult situation. And then she ultimately, I think, ends up taking in a German, someone who was left the German army. And so it's historic fiction. I love her prose. I love her storylines. I just love how she describes the characters in her book. And The 4 Winds takes place in Texas in 1934. And it covers one of the darkest periods of the Great Depression. It's the Dust Bowl era. And again, she has a strong female character who has to make a very difficult choice. So it is a portrait of America and the American dream through the eyes of a woman who is going through the Great Depression. And that's one that's one I would probably buy. I like her enough that I'm not willing to wait in line at the library. I love the library, but that is one that I would buy from. I like to buy from my local bookseller. I personally like to keep my dollars in town. And even if they don't have a book in stock for you, generally speaking, they can get it in a day or two. So that's one that I'm going to put on the pre-order list, either at Reader's Books here in Sonoma or Copperfields.
You're inspiring us, Monique. You're inspiring us. I love that new category, historic fiction, because we don't have to read the history, the boring history that we all remember how history was presented to us.
Yeah.
But we can learn history with the emotion and the real time. That's
yes,
really
and you know, the authors who write historic fiction do a tremendous amount of research. You know, going back to Hilary Mantel and Henry VIII and Thomas Cromwell, there's a lot of history that she covers, and she covers very, very well, in my opinion. You know, another issue that the publishing industry has come under fire for and is working to overcome is that of inclusivity. And what I love seeing is the rise in Black and Latinx voices. And one book, again, that I keep seeing coming up in all of the trade publications that I read is How Beautiful We Were by Mbolo, I believe it's pronounced Mumbe. It's set in a fictional African village, and it is about the struggle of poor villagers against an enormous American oil company. And the villagers fight back in the only way that they can, and it's an ongoing struggle. And that book is due out on March the 9th.
And the author is what?
Mbolo, Imbolo, and last name Mbue. I believe that's pronounced Mbu.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.